today we're doing actually something very important. We're going to talk about the end of Stargate Universe because we finally finished it, which is
Yes.
amazing. And I think we'll both have a lot to say about the series as a whole, also the grand finale. I think also just briefly we can kind of check in a little bit about the Save Stargate movement. For
Yeah.
anyone watching this, we're currently sort of a couple weeks past the point where it was announced that Martin Garrow's new Stargate series that was in planning and had actually been, I don't know, significantly a lot was written already, was said to be canceled by Amazon. And since then, basically, so many things have happened. There have been several, like, um,
Petitions.
yeah, there's been several petitions, movements. They had this, like, flyover, is that what it's called?
Yeah. Over the
Um,
studio, the Amazon headquarters.
yes,
Um,
with a banner that said Stay Stargate. They also had in a TV in, I think in New York in Times Square somewhere, that every so many seconds there was this flash of Save Stargate. It was showing the Stargate, and so they did this action. I also saw today that some people brought a Save Stargate banner to the top of the Empire State Building.
did they really? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
and I know there's a ton of other action planned over the next month. Also, everyone has probably experienced this if you go onto, for example, Twitter, that every post that is by Amazon video at the moment is all about Safe Stargate. And
Yes.
they're noticing because if you try and search for Stargate gifts, you don't see as many as you used to.
hmm
So,
hmm Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. And I think for anyone that like I still need to get fully updated on what's all going on with plans with that because I think Dial the Gate and Gate World recently did a live that I haven't seen yet. That is explaining kind of steps and ideas for moving forward because I think they're kind of really like
mhm.
taking the lead on this and like trying to help people kind of have a cohesive kind of plan to kind of have all of those amazing Stargate fans kind of band together and continue making noise about it, which is really cool. I think I've heard people talk about like how when things like this have happened with other fandoms, how it hasn't quite been as continuous and how you have to kind of keep it going because then people will forget. And so I think so far, like Stargate fans are doing really well with keeping the momentum going, which I think is important.
Totally. Quick question.
Yeah.
Did you expect it to get this big, the movement?
Oh, I didn't have an expectation because I think I was just in shock of the whole thing.
Yeah,
And
me
so
too.
I was just like in determination mode of like, we need to fight back somehow. And I'm usually quite optimistic with that kind of thing. So in my mind, if everyone bands together, they can do something about it. And so I'm happy that it seems to be in the direction that my mind was hoping for. And I didn't expect, certain things. Like I didn't expect the thing with the plane or Times Square or I feel like my brain didn't have time to think about it. So I guess if anything, it's what the optimistic nature of my brain was hoping for. And so I'm
Yeah,
happy that it's turned out in that way and seems to be gathering attention and I think sometimes you can feel with these kinds of things like you worry that people are just going to give up and forget about it and then it makes everything dwindle down and then suddenly like nothing happens. And so I think in the back of my mind I was just like, oh, is everyone just going to stop after like a week and then just kind of accept defeat kind of thing? And so I'm glad that
yep.
that hasn't happened. And I think a big part of that is um some of the talent and crew from Stargate, speaking up. I think slowly,
Definitely. Yeah.
like the first one to really speak out because I think he could was Michael Shanks. Um, Joseph Malazzi has always kind of spoke out in whichever way he can.
Hmm.
Sadly, Martin Garrow can't speak out, but that makes total sense.
Yep.
But his wife can, and I believe his wife kind of did
She
something.
did. Yeah.
Um, and so the people that can speak out, I think, are speaking out. And I totally understand that as people that work in the entertainment industry, I can imagine whether it's cast or crew or whatever. Well, my voice is going. Holy hell. But basically, I can imagine that some people are connected to projects that maybe have nothing to do with Stargate, that might have to do with Amazon, or things connected with people connected with Amazon, that they can't speak out because they would lose their
Exactly.
job, or something bad would happen. So I understand why maybe some might want to speak out but don't. So it is kind of nice though to see those that can do. And so I've noticed Michael Shanks, I think Rachel Luttrell, David Hewitt, I think, has also spoken out. Um, Also, oh, the guy that he's a very well-known actor, and I'm terrible with names. He was in Stargate Atlantis, and he was the one that died in the beginning of Stargate Atlantis from the Wraith. He was like the sergeant dude. Anyways, he's a
Okay.
very well-known actor, and I have his face in my mind, but I can't think of his name. And he was really good with speaking out. He was also speaking out as well. So there's people that are doing that I think help also make the fans feel like they have something they can fight for, because people that are in a place of influence are also speaking out. So yeah.
Yes. No, that's absolutely true. And I mean, also fair to say, some of the people that were working on the show also don't really have social media. Some do, some don't. And there's some that
Yeah.
have been really active. And I have noticed that outside of the ones that were maybe core involved in the project, the ones that are active on social media have been actually speaking out or
Yeah.
reposting or doing what they seemingly can. I mean, I have to say I was surprised. Like the things that have probably surprised me the most, because I did kind of expect some kind of, or I thought, I mean, it's not an expectation, but I imagined that there would be some kind of organized event or organized thing or something. I didn't expect all the unorganized stuff, like people just randomly getting on Twitter and commenting Save Stargate under every single Amazon post. Like that was kind of
Yeah.
like a, oh my gosh, are people really doing this? And that even multiple weeks after, you still see that. And the best part is that I think someone at Amazon MGM Prime Video or whatever, like knew that people were doing this on purpose, because I swear the prompts they were given
Uh,
were definitely geared towards this. It's like, oh, name an iconic platonic friendship duo, or what TV show do you want to watch this year? What world of a TV show or movie would you want to live in if you could? Like, come on,
I mean,
you
if I
know?
didn't know better, like the hopeful side of me was like, oh, is like Amazon doing this on purpose so they just get like a massive like intrigue into this show, and then be like, oh, psych, we're gonna
Hmm.
continue.
I mean, it could,
Which,
it could
yeah.
be. I mean, and they would never do, they probably would never say that they would never admit it. They would just be like, oh, due to fan pressure, we've decided to go forward with it, because then they would want to seem like the good guy, you know?
Yeah. But the thing is I feel like with the way they've been acting, or lack of acting, if that makes sense, the lack of responding, because I don't think they've responded, right?
No.
At least as far as I've heard. Uh, it makes me just feel like someone like the head people of Amazon that have control over this are just being like um very stubborn. Like it kind of reminds me
Hmm.
of like when little kids are in a fight and someone knows they've done something wrong, and they just flat out refuse, and they say all the lies in the world to make themselves feel better, and
Yep.
just, stick to what they've always said, even if like they've been caught red-handed. That's how it feels. It feels very childish, I think, with how Amazon has not responded.
Yep.
I mean, granted, maybe there's like legal reasons for that and things that I don't understand as to why they can't really respond. Maybe that's a huge possibility. Um, But yeah, I hope that it is stirring up something within Amazon that either
Me
it
too.
makes it that they decide to just do it anyways and continue on with Martin Garrow's vision and all the other writers that put so much work into it, um, or that they just sell the frickin' rights and figure we'll sell
Yes.
it because we don't want to deal with it.
Yep.
Um, but they might be a bit more vindictive and not want to do it and like having the so-called upper hand. But I think what they're not what they're hoping for is for people to just be quiet and let it fizzle out. And I don't think that's going to happen as long as everyone kind of keeps like moving forward with what they can do. I know like everyone can't always, be putting every effort towards it, but like do what you can, like leave a hashtag save Stargate when you can, or, you know, do something that brings attention to it, and keeps it going.
Yeah, I mean, even posting one thing a day is keeping the momentum.
Mhm.
Reposting someone's thing is keeping the momentum. Like anything is keeping the momentum
Yeah.
right now, and it seems like people are doing a really good job of that. So I'm very impressed with what's been going on, and I'm excited to hear about the events that are coming up. I know there's several coming up, both in different regions, and then also some international events, some scheduled at Comic Cons, I think, or some conventions.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to hear about all that.
Yeah, I
Um,
definitely feel like there's a lot more Comic Cons with Stargate people for sure. There's a ton of
yeah,
like more. I
that's
think
true.
part of it may have been already planned out because of them assuming that Stargate was happening, but there's definitely a lot more because I know in the
True.
past looking for that kind of thing, and it was maybe like a few around the world. There was always like France or Germany, and sometimes like maybe near London in the UK, and then a few places that were maybe one or two people that were involved in Stargate at one time that would maybe be at some sort of like, state in the US that was maybe just them or a few others. But like now I feel like there's a lot more of like the actors going like full steam ahead of being like how we were just talking before this, how me and you both used to live in or near Portland, Oregon, and how now, of course, that we're both not there. Of course, Richard Dean Anderson and a ton of other Stargate peeps are going to be at a Comic Con there.
Yes, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
So here's the thing. I was just checking because there's actually quite a lot of things coming up.
Hmm.
Um, there's for example, okay, if I go to the Save Stargate website, they have this sort of timeline of events. They've had the online ongoing thing. The studio flying over Culver City that happened in June is complete. The thing in America, so it says Times Square, that's complete. Then Europe, there's something on July 19th, RSVP open. The World on July 25th, RSVP open. August 8th, classified in space.
What?
Yeah. So there's one in
Ah, I need
space.
to
Now the
get
one
caught up what's going on.
Yeah, I'll have to send a link. I'll also post this for people watching. I'll put this in the video. So the one at the 25th, this is the one I was thinking of that was part of a con. So it's San Diego Comic Con. There's some event, but it says big event in person world edition. So there might be some kind of online participation. So we'll have to look
Nice.
into that and the one on July 19th. But
So
yes, the
cool.
space one,
Yeah.
it says details to be provided. Big event in person, space edition.
My gosh. Yeah. Very cool. Very
Ooh.
cool. Yeah. I need to get updated. Like, gosh, truly like think about it. If Gate World and Dial the Gate didn't exist, like half of this wouldn't be happening. Like the way they're able to like have all their connections all around the world and like help like bring attention to this and help organize things. Like I know it's not just them, but like, the people they're connected to that are all helping organize this. It's really freaking cool. Like I'm grateful for them for kind of helping organize this all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I mean, it's incredible, truly, what has transpired and what
Yeah.
um, Delegate and Gate World have put together and contributed, what the fans have put together and contributed. It's like it makes you really appreciate the whole like fandom community. And
Yeah.
so I think
Yeah.
it's like
And even to like I've noticed, an increase of people commenting about this. And sometimes this brings out the negative people that like say negative things. And in all honesty, like I think many times they're not even Stargate fans. They just want to rile people up. And even them commenting on, say, our podcast or other people's content and just saying, oh, all hope is lost, don't try and do anything because blah blah blah, or like, they'll say like rude things. It's kind of like, okay, like cool, like you're helping keep this alive, so thanks, even if you're being negative, because it's helping, like, get
Yeah.
people riled up to just keep pushing back.
Totally, totally. And I mean, hey, that's a strategy. I was like, maybe rage baiting is like the way to get a lot of people to answer. So I mean, maybe you can just like Stargate sucks, and then 100 people reply or something like,
Yeah.
something really rage baity, like like I thought Dr. Beckett is like the worst, meanest character ever. Something like that. Then everybody will respond, and it's like, well, then it gets pushed to the algorithmic queue. So
Yeah.
that's actually
And then
another
do a bunch
thing.
of hashtag save Stargate.
Yeah, exactly. And I have also been, I have to say, I've been impressed because the level of TikToks, there's been a lot of like Stargate TikToks lately.
Hmm.
Stargate TikTok edits were, I mean, they were kind of always around. I've seen more and more over the last year, actually. Like it seems to be that there's more and more accounts focused on Stargate. There's more people doing Stargate edits, but just to see people making, even just like silly edits of, Daniel Jackson or like some, Sam and Jack shipping, this helps. I mean,
Yeah.
this is, they talk about a broad audience, but I mean, we have to like be real and think that it has really nothing to do with I mean, today's broad audiences have nothing to do with the media itself. It has to always do with the fact that everybody that is newer generations is primarily consuming short form content, and usually it's through the short form content that they discover things.
Yeah. And
You
there's
know.
there's been I can't remember where I saw this. It may have been on Facebook on the Stargate Fans United, or maybe it was on, I don't know, it was on some sort of platform. And I had seen this where someone was mentioning how they noticed, like, people that have never heard of Stargate are talking about it and watching it and saying how they like it, or even like complaining about things that happened that, like within the episode that they watched, like, being enraged by something that happened with a character or something. But like the way like they're discussing it is really funny because it's very like uh what is it, Gen Z coded, like with how like
Hmm.
they use their
Yep.
words, which is amazing. Like
I
I
love
think
it.
that's,
Yeah.
that's great. And it shows that if someone that has really never heard of it, truly never heard of it, and then because of this they hear of it and now they're like, oh, I'm curious, like why are people freaking out over this, I'm gonna watch it. And then they watch it and they get really into it and have a whole new way of communicating about it, because every generation is like that. Everyone has their words and phrases and things that like become natural to that
Hmm.
group of people usually, and are kind of unique to that age group of people. And then that alone also then helps other people
Totally.
like be like, oh, well, this person's talking about, and it just kind of keeps like, it's like a ripple effect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No,
Which
I
is
love it.
funny because also Ripple is the name of the show that Amanda Tapping is directing, that's actually very good.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting. It's also, I think there's also a Stargate episode called Ripple Effect.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I think that kind of breaks down what's been happening with the Save Stargate stuff. Because I think both of us also need to get updated a little bit on fully what's going on with that. Since we haven't seen the live yet, that recently happened. But do you have anything else to say about that, or should we now talk about Universe and watching the end of
Yes.
Universe?
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about universe. So like first of all, let's talk our now that we've seen the whole show, how do you
Yeah,
feel about it? Like how do you feel about like what are your thoughts like
just
as a
Stargate
whole?
Universe in general as a whole.
Yes. Yeah. Let's start with as
Uh,
a whole, and then we can
yeah,
kind of maybe talk about the ending. But yeah, as a whole, what do you think now?
I love Stargate Universe. And I remember previously when I watched it the first time, even though I didn't remember it watching it this time. So it was like a whole new show. I do remember loving it, which was why when initially I started rewatching it this time, and it was your first time watching it, I was a bit surprised that it took me a bit of time to get into it. Um, I kind of feel that in the rewatch, once I rewatch it again, it's not going to take me as long to get into it because I know now kind of what to expect and I know the vibe and things that happen that I feel like my focus will be more away from that and things won't feel so jarring in terms of how things kind of change with how they film it and how the vibe is. But overall, definitely recommend people giving it a chance because it's very, very good, in my opinion, especially once you get to the end of season one, especially season two. And I'm
Mhm.
very, very sad that it didn't continue?
Yeah. No, I also very much like it. I think it's really nice as a show. It would have been very cool if they had more seasons.
Yeah.
Um, I think probably the most difficult thing about it is, interestingly, like, because you mentioned in the beginning maybe having a difficult time getting into it, and I would say, okay, there is something there. I think it's actually probably the visual, which is a very common visual at this time. I think every
Yeah.
show around this era has this sort of dark visual.
Yeah.
And video games were the same, by the way, at this time. They all had this kind of darkness. I think it was very around the time when, like, really the HDTV movement was huge and everybody had kind of transitioned to HDTVs. Also, a lot of people at the time had very big TVs. I don't know if you remember this, but like there was the HDTV sort of when they came out and they were super expensive, and then kind of like towards the end of the knots, like they got cheaper, and so everybody was like buying these gigantic HD TVs.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it was a thing. Like I remember everybody had this big HD TVs because most people would make fun of me because I'm not one that likes big TV in my house. Like like I get
Hmm.
overwhelmed sensorily, so I always had a smaller one.
Oh, okay.
But I remember they got like super cheap, like because there was a time when a big TV like that is like $3,000 or $4,000, and if they
Hmm.
suddenly dropped to where like you could get a big one for like 700, I mean this is a huge drop, right?
Yeah.
And I think because of that, and the way like overall like shows were getting more muted in color, there was this certain coloring scheme that was very dark. At least I noticed this in shows, and you probably
Yeah.
noticed it if you watch a lot of media. Then video games is the same thing. They were all very gray, very dark. And I think the show was a very similar thing. And it's interesting because I kind of wonder, like, how would we have perceived it differently if it was like lit more modern, like today,
Hmm.
or more like, even 2 or 3 years previously? Because I think for me, sometimes when things are dark, I do have a little bit of like I'm trying to see. But I recognize that's
Yeah.
an aesthetic. This is nothing, no fault to anybody on the show. This was the aesthetic at the time.
Yeah.
Like this had to be the aesthetic of the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I think it works. Like I think it works because of the vibe it gives. I think where it was tricky is because Stargate SG-1 and Atlantis went from things, even though obviously there's things about all of it that is obviously not realistic, right? But it went from having things where even when they were bad, it was treated in a way that sometimes had a lightheartedness to it, um, that it didn't stick with it being super serious. And I think with Universe, it went to the darker color tones and the different ways of filming. And I remember noticing when we initially first watched it the difference in the music and or the lack of music, um you know um that all of that combined just made it feel like you were almost stuck in this dark hole and you were just
yeah.
kind of stuck somewhere, and no one likes that feeling, but that's the whole freaking point, right? They were stuck on a ship, and and that's how they felt. Like they couldn't get away from it, even though there's this vast, like, you know, universe, right? Like you're stuck in this ship and you don't know how to get back home. And, you know, I think initially, everything was failing in the ship and they're trying to get it to work and they're worrying about life support. So all those things are very dark and gloomy. And then with Universe, you have the difference too, where it was very much more relationship based, I think. Um, with like a few people, like certain storylines, like you're trying to figure out what's going on between characters because, like, initially TJ and Young, you're just like, what's going on with them? And so there's a lot of like almost little groups or duos of people in the beginning that you're
Hmm.
trying to figure out what's going on with them. It's not like as a whole. Whereas I feel like with SG1 and Atlantis, everything's much more large group based. Um, and it has more of an open feeling, less doom and gloom all the time.
Which I think I'm glad that they pulled back because something I notice with a lot of shows is that they will fall into this trap that everything is always getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the stakes are always getting bigger and bigger. And then by the time you get to the end, things are very, you fall into the trap that everything must be more fantastical than the next. And I
Mm-hmm.
think they had this great thing because in Stargate, they kind of very gradually opened it up in SG1 over the seasons. And then Atlantis actually opened things up more. But then I feel like with Universe, they actually pulled back because in a way they expanded it, like to, oh, okay, you can with a ninth chevron, etc. But they really compressed it. And I feel like
Yeah.
just from a storytelling perspective, it makes a lot more sense because
Yeah.
you just can't keep it. Because now that we've had this, now we can expand again because we've
Yeah.
had room to kind of bring it all back, bring it more focused, focus more on these little individual things, and now we can kind of go forth. But I feel like if they really, I mean, when I think about it, like if they really made it something where, oh yeah, now we're exploring an even more distant galaxy and there's this and this and this, it probably wouldn't have been so effective. It probably would have just been
Yeah.
like, oh, it's like Atlantis, but bigger, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think too, like, I mean, I assume if people are watching this episode of ours, they've also seen Universe fully, I would assume, because otherwise
Mhm.
it'd be a massive spoilers for watch, like once we talk about kind of what happened at the very end. So I would say if people haven't watched it, then maybe watch it first and then come back.
Yeah. Or
Um,
if you don't mind spoilers, then just watch it. I
yeah.
mean,
Some
I don't
people
mind
don't mind
spoilers.
spoilers.
I
I
don't. I
hate
don't care about
spoilers.
spoilers.
That's so funny. You and my daughter Taylor like are the same in that. Taylor
She
has had
doesn't
so
care
many
either.
spoilers for things, and that's actually what makes her like want to watch something is because she'll see the spoilers and then want to watch it. So
Same. I'm the same.
that's
I do the
so
same
funny.
thing. Oh my
Oh,
God.
that's too funny. Did I by accident like, in a different reality, maybe Taylor was actually your child?
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense. I'm sure, like, if we were out somewhere and there was Vala and Taylor and you and me, like, probably people would think that Vala is yours and Taylor is mine.
Isn't that so funny? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. How funny. Oh my goodness. But yeah, so I mean, it seems like we both have similar views on universe like as a whole, right?
Okay, so question before,
Yeah.
was there anything that bothered you about Universe? Because for me, there's one thing.
Oh, anything specific that bothered me? Um, Not that I can think of. What was it that bothered you?
The only thing that bothered me that I still kind of have a little bit of an issue with is the stones.
Oh, like how so?
Just that, I mean, I understand later on it was addressed a bit better because they had, that when, for example, Amanda was in the body of Gin, and there was this reaction of like Eli. I think in the second season they did that a little bit better. I think
Yeah.
in the first season there's just some stuff with the stones that, and again, it's the first season, so maybe this is like, I mean, also is the difference. I just found there's some things that I know it had to be like this. They had to have this connection to Earth and everything, but some of the things about like body and ownership of body that they weren't really addressed necessarily. So that
Yeah.
is the one thing that maybe if I would be like, oh, was there anything that bothered you? That's the thing that bothered me.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if I think about it in that sense, yeah. I mean, we have talked a lot about the stones, um, and that, issue with certain things just not making sense that they're just all okay with, you know? And I do think sometimes the stones give almost like an excuse to it's smart. It's a smart way of like being able to bring certain things into the storyline that you otherwise couldn't.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if it's used too much, although if I think about it, like I guess it would make sense, that they use the stones often when in that type of situation because they're trying to receive help or see family and things like that. If
I
they didn't,
think
yeah, I don't know
for me,
what.
for the communication and like when they were like maybe swapping with people in the SGC or something, that was totally fine. I thought this was really efficiently done. The points where I kind of struggled with it were like parts where, you have a character having sex with a character when it's like somebody else's body and it's not really addressed. Like if it was
Yeah.
addressed, then I feel like maybe, and I think they probably, in the later, like I said, in the second season, they did address this, because they had this kind of weirdness between Rush and Eli because they kind of knew the circumstance. And so I think they did address it. I think they actually did a really interesting way of and good way of addressing it when they had Camille swap with Amanda Perry. I thought that
Hmm.
was extremely effective.
Hmm.
But it's just this one like thing of where, there were a couple times I think someone went back to see their significant other and it kind of wasn't really that aspect of it wasn't addressed, or at least openly on screen.
Yeah.
And I actually think if even if it was just like micro addressed, I think that would have made a huge difference actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what did you think of? Because I feel like Stargate has this pattern. Um, with SG-1, they did it. Trying to remember with Atlantis if they do. They kind of do in a different way, not fully. So more like with SG-1, near the end of SG-1, they have the whole thing happen where like they're stuck and they're older. They become older, right?
Hmm.
Um, and in Universe, they have the thing where um there's like the other what do you call it? The other reality of them
Hmm.
that then is like they're showing them like as their older version of themselves, living in this like village that they've like created because they went to this, place. And I always hate those so much.
Really?
I
Really?
don't, it gives like, I don't like, it gives me an icky feeling like seeing them make the characters age and have very specific things happen. Did you almost fall?
Yes, I totally almost wiped out.
Suddenly saw you zoom back. That's really funny. um, but like, it's like I don't know if it's just because it's just kind of like depressing to me. Because it's usually done in a very like almost old-fashioned like vibe and time. Like they almost everything goes back in time in a sense, even though it's not back in time. Like they have them living very in a very simple way where, like they're living off of the land and things happen that like are sad and then people die and or get certain like diseases that they can't fix and all these things and I just don't like doing that in this story. Like I could have done without that. Like
Ah,
I
right.
get, yeah, yeah,
See, to me, like, I mean, I thought that was really, it was cool, but also because of what it opens up. I
mm,
mean, understandably, we know it's going to end, so it actually really didn't open up anything. But I could imagine, I mean, if you pretend for a minute that that this did go on to a third season, well, the crew that you're seeing right now could actually be another one of these, and then we follow a different crew, for example.
yeah, yeah,
Or the people that are ancestors, we start meeting them everywhere. Kind of like how we meet the ancestors of the ancients during SG-1. So if you have another
yeah.
show, I
That's
mean,
a good
imagine
point. Yeah,
imagine the next show. Like, I mean, I doubt this is the case, but imagine you have a circumstance where you're kind of in the Destiny universe and you're meeting, like you have a totally different team or something, and you're kind of meeting all these people, or you bring a team from, Earth to the Destiny universe because you're like, all right, we finally have the technology to go rescue those people. And you're meeting all the ancestors of
yeah,
that original crew, or maybe of 3 or 4 crews by now. I mean, you don't know. Like, when you think
yeah,
about the plot it opens up, that's actually very cool.
yeah. That's a very good
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
But I understand what you mean. Like, there's, of course, like heartbreaking things, or like seeing that people, did or didn't get together or something like that. But,
Yeah. I think what I don't like is like it's just like depressing to me, like when they have it, um, like just when I watch things from like a certain time period, like what it kind of reminds me of is like when I was a kid, I used to watch the show called Little House on the Prairie. I don't know if you
oh, yeah.
remember that.
I
And
remember that.
it was all kind of set back in time, where, they live off of the land and like there's all these like, you know, sad things that happen that they don't have the technology or advancements in medicine yet to really do anything about. And um, I don't know, for me, that gives me a sick feeling. I don't like that time period. I think it's just me. Like, I just don't like that time period. And so when I see things that are kind of based in that and it's all about like doom and gloom in that sense, like, even though some of it was sweet, like some of it was like good things that happened, I just didn't like it. Like, I just get like, when you mention about how it bringing out things within the plot and everything, that makes total sense. Like I didn't think that far ahead just because I knew it was ending. Unfortunately, watching this, it's just like we knew it was ending at season
Yeah.
2, so I didn't really think ahead to that. But like, I think because of there being episodes, I believe right before that, that I really, really loved, that are some of my favorites, that then going into that, I'm just like, oh, I don't like this. Like, I
I
don't
see.
like what's happening.
I mean, I understand because like when I watch things from the 70s, it makes me have a depressed feeling.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
sometimes like even the six, not so much the 60s, like maybe late 60s, like the whole period of like the late 60s to like the early 80s for some reason gives me also a sick feeling. And it's not, I mean, I know there's plenty of good stuff. I'm sure there's people that love this kind of shows. Um,
yeah,
but until you get to like 1985, it's kind of like I,
yeah,
I have issues with it. And I remember having to watch this crap in school, and it's like all the colors are depressing, the lighting is depressing, everything is depressing.
yeah,
So I get that totally.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so that some time periods give you a good feeling and some time periods give you a different feeling.
yeah, yeah. Um, how did you feel? Like, what are your thoughts? I know you have lots of thoughts about the end of SGU. Is there anything specific you want to bring up that like stood out to you, or thoughts you have about how it ended, things like that?
I mean, can I ask you something? Do you know, like, did they know when they wrote the ending that they were ending, or was it kind of more of an abrupt thing?
I don't think they knew.
Okay.
Maybe. I could be wrong on that. I would have to look that up. Um, but my understanding of it is that I thought that they were like waiting on it being renewed and then it never got renewed.
Okay.
But I could be very wrong in that. We should look that up and we can always even put it as a
Yeah.
comment or something under our video if we find out, or if anyone knows if they can put it as a comment. Because
Hmm.
to me, I was under the impression that they thought they, to me, it felt like it ended where they could easily have there be something optimistic that happens in the next season to kind of get
Hmm.
the crew and everyone together and not just have Eli be the one there um kind of on his lonesome.
I mean, I honestly thought the ending was the best of the Stargates, like in terms of the ending.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of wonder if that's because they didn't know it was going to end. Because I have to say, like, generally, overall, with every show I've ever watched, it's very rare. And there's only been like one or two shows where I actually like the last episode. Usually, last episodes are the worst because they
Yeah.
try and like do something huge and it kind of doesn't work, or they have it end in a very, very like weird and final way. And I think what actually is very good about this is it kind of it has this finality to it where like you feel like, oh, I mean, it could be 1,000 years before the story picks up again. But it also like has this it could pick up again right away kind of feeling. So that's why to me, like I actually thought it was really the best ending of them. Because I mean, let's say for example, 3 years pass and they did renew the next season. Of course, it doesn't matter. Their characters are in stasis. It's presumable that they look the same. And anyways, they're in a different galaxy. So it's not like we have to worry about like, all the time passing on Earth until they actually talk to Earth.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you could also probably explain that away. So I don't know. What did you think about it?
I was kind of torn if I liked the ending or not, to be honest. Something about it, I don't know. I guess I'm not fully sure how I feel because I didn't really like that they kind of left it all up to Eli in the end. Um, to kind of be like almost like the hero of everything and choose to stay back and, do everything and everyone else just kind of went in their pods and just kind of left them. And, it's just kind of like I wasn't sure, honestly. I still don't know. I think like I don't fully know how I feel about it. I think part of it is like I was in the middle of watching this all while I was in the process of moving. So it was kind of like everything was really stressful at the time anyways. And then what I did notice is after I finished Universe, I immediately like felt like a withdrawal. I was just like, oh no, like I want to be watching Stargate. Like well, even though I am watching Stargate with my daughter and we're on Atlantis and the end of SG1 right now, like it was kind of like I went through like this like sadness of like, oh,
Right.
I reached the end. Like, oh, like there's no more like new stuff because I didn't really remember. Um, yeah, I was a bit torn on how it ended. It wasn't necessary. Like, you are very right that it kind of like ended with a feeling of it being final without it being final. That was good, I think, and worked well. Like they could come back from that. I think I was almost expecting there to be less of a final feeling to it, I think, is part of
Okay,
what I was
gotcha.
expecting solely because I would hear and read other fans talking about, oh, just wait, it's on such a big cliffhanger, like it's going to piss you off kind of vibe. And I kind of felt like I didn't get that impression. I felt like it actually was very final. Like you could see that being kind of, it's open ended. You don't really know what happens. So, in that sense, it's a cliffhanger. But at the same time, like you can imagine, like either it's all doom and gloom and eventually everyone just dies or somehow they get out of it. Because I'm trying to remember with the pods, um what was the idea behind that? It put them in the pods for how long? Like it allowed them, they did that because of life support, right? Like where the life support was like leaving. I can't remember with Eli at the end too. Like, was he supposed to go in a pod and then there wasn't one?
There, yeah, remember like there were three that were messed up or they didn't have enough to supply them, and then there was one that was still messed up, and so he stayed out to either fix it or figure out. And like he had, I think, 3 weeks worth of supplies and life support. I mean, I think part of the issue is that they were going to go through this hostile galaxy or whatever into the new one, but they need the time and
Hmm.
they don't have enough food and stuff. So they go into stasis basically. And so I think the idea is it's like either 3 years or like if something went wrong with something, then it was going to be 1,000 or something like that. And I think, I mean, is interesting. I mean, maybe this is a different reality team for all we know, now that they've
Yeah.
opened that door. But I actually like, it's funny because usually I really, really don't like the last final episodes, or they just
Yeah.
kind of like if they were a regular episode, like they're kind of okay, but they're not my favorite. I thought this one, like I kind of felt peaceful at the end. Like I didn't feel
Hmm.
bothered. I didn't feel like knowing that it was the last one. But then maybe like you, I came in expecting something really cliffhangery, and I
Yeah.
was expecting like, the ship, like if you think about some of the crazy cliffhangers, it's like, the ship is being shot at and they're like right in front of Earth and the people that are shooting at them are going to blow up Earth or something. I mean, this is like, you don't know how they're
Yeah.
going to get out of it. But
Yeah.
this was kind of like, if there's a clear solution, there's a lot of time. It's kind of chill and nobody is in immediate danger at the time. So,
Yeah. I think part of me, I feel like with any of my opinions on this, it will change when I rewatch it. I really feel that because that tends to happen to me. I'll have a thought about how something made me feel when I watched it, and then I go back and watch it, and my thoughts change. But I feel like for now, throughout all of SGU, they do put pressure on Eli
mhm,
because, you know, he is arguably like the smartest person there, him and Rush,
mhm.
right? Um, but I feel like they normally never would give him a chance to kind of like be the person. It was usually like Rush was the guy to figure everything out. And I thought it was kind of interesting how they kind of switched it, where it's kind of like all of a sudden Rush almost kind of admits like Eli's the one for the job, but then at the same time is Rush doing that because he wants to make sure he lives and it's like purely selfish. Like, um, like I feel like they put a lot of pressure on Eli at the very, very end to be like the person to stay around and do everything, and everyone else just kind of pieces out. And I was weirded out by that because I felt like that wasn't fully um accurate to how some of those characters would maybe have it play out. But it could just be how I'm remembering it. Maybe if I watched it again today, I would think differently. I'm not sure.
I mean, I think to be fair, they didn't know that it was going to end up like that because they went into the stasis and then they just didn't know. I think there were already people in
Oh, right.
stasis.
Some of them didn't know. It wasn't until more near the end, right?
It wasn't only until the end, and then they it was assumed they were all fixed, and it wasn't until there was just the three left of Eli, Rush, and Young that they realized there was one pod that wouldn't work. And
Mm,
I
okay.
think that I mean in the end like I think probably it's because Rush knew Eli is the only one that could solve the problem. He's also the most trustworthy. So like for example, leaving Young behind would basically just be a suicidal sacrifice.
Hmm.
Um, Rush might not trust himself. Um, he also might know that of everybody, Eli would probably be the one that would be the most interested in making sure everybody was saved.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
So,
Oh my gosh. What did you think of what happened to, is it Park? Is that her name? Her last name,
oh, that's
Park?
so sad. Yeah. But I think
Oh,
it was
yeah.
implied it's going to come back. So my feeling is like if the
Was it?
show
Okay.
Like my gut feeling would be that let's say they did resume with the first episode and they came out of stasis, is like she would come out of stasis and be like, "Oh, I'm seeing some things." And then, when she like and then it would be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, because it was going to get there, but because you went into stasis and unfroze, then it sped up the process." That would be
Yeah.
my feeling.
And what I do like actually with like Universe that I feel like they that was nice to see is that because there's so many characters within Stargate Universe, and in the beginning, I feel like you have the certain main ones,
Hmm.
and there's ones that are always there. And I remember telling you, like with certain characters when we were talking about earlier episodes, that there was certain characters I didn't really know anything about, and
Yeah,
it would be interesting to have there be more about. And I do feel like by the end, they gave them each a bit of a storyline that
totally.
allowed there to be more like more there for those characters. And um I'm glad they did that because I
Yeah,
think
me too. Me too.
sometimes shows can kind of get in the habit of having there be like two, three, four main people and everyone else is just kind of in the background that you never really get to learn much about them. And it's like I feel like with a lot of the scientists and stuff, suddenly they got brought to the front.
Yes.
And
Yes.
different things
Totally.
were
I agree.
happening with like health or different things, which I liked. And I liked the idea of Park. Is that her last name, Park, or is it
Hmm.
Parker? I can't remember.
Park. Park. Yeah.
Park. Okay. I liked the idea of her and Greer
Me
together.
too, actually. I thought it was in
Um,
the end a very sweet relationship.
yeah, yeah. I felt bad for the other guy that did like her though. Always forget his name. The guy with the
Oh,
curly, like blondish hair.
the one that was just the friend. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Because I really like his character too. Like that character kind of grew on me as well, like
Hmm.
as the show progressed. One weird thing that I wanted to talk about. This is so funny. This has happened to me before. This has happened to me before with a different movie, basically. But have
Hmm.
you heard of like the Mandela effect, where like you really think something has happened that
Hmm.
hasn't happened? That happened to me this whole time, if you remember, with Universe. I kept telling you.
Uh-huh.
I kept telling you, oh, something's going to happen with Chloe's character. I know this thing happens, and I'm just like waiting on it happening. So I can't talk about blah, blah, blah. And you would always kind of like look at me like, okay, like, what is she talking about? But okay, something's going to happen. I shit you not. I really thought she was going to die. I have
Really?
memories of her dying. I have a memory of her going in something to help everyone and closing the door, and then it causes her to die. But that never fricking happened. And
Oh, crazy.
I don't know why. If it, I think part of it was that there is a scene where she goes in one of the things in the ship to like help people and closes it when like the ship's being attacked. I think something like that happens in an earlier episode, but then she's okay. And I think in my mind, that was a thing where she dies. And I think part of the blame
Ah.
of that concept goes to when I first started rewatching Universe. Obviously, again, I never remembered anything, so it's like watching it for the first time. I was on the Stargate Fans United page on Facebook, and someone mentioned something about Chloe, and they said, "Oh, it's a shame that happened because she was just starting to like Eli. They were starting to
Mm.
like each other." And they said something that
Ah.
indicated to me that it was a spoiler that she died. And so I misunderstood what they wrote, thinking they were saying she died and that it's a shame that that happened because her and Eli were getting closer. And I was just like, oh gosh, that's right. When does that happen? And I started thinking I had a memory of that happening. Like I still
Yeah.
can clearly see her running into this like little thing that then she closes, and then like something happens where then like something explodes and then she's dead, but that never freaking happened. So it's bizarre to me because this has happened to me before, where I was watching one of the Hunger Games movies with my
Mhm.
daughter, and I have a very clear memory of this character being up in a helicopter with the two main characters. And there's a thing that happens where his character dies because then the helicopter crashes. And
Hmm.
it's this whole crazy scene with the helicopter. It never freaking happened. I was waiting on it happening when I was watching this Hunger Games movie with my daughter, and it never freaking happened. And I was baffled. And the only thing I can think of is that that actor was also in other action movies that I had seen him in. And my mind confused the two. And it was maybe from some sort of like Mission Impossible movie or something that he had been in that this happened. It was the something Philip Seymour. What's his name? Is it Philip? He died in real life. I can't remember. Hold on, let me look this up.
I mean, the other solution is that it's possible you just quantum jumped into a different reality, and in your previous reality, Chloe actually does die in universe. This one she doesn't.
So the actor Philip Seymour Hoffman
Oh, okay.
is the guy that was in one of these Hunger Games movies. And I think what it was is he used to be in a lot of action movies, like a lot. And I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure in it something happens where he's in a helicopter and then the helicopter like he basically falls off of the helicopter and it's from a completely different movie and I really thought it was from the Hunger Games. I even saw the two main characters in my mind in that helicopter with him at the end. It never freaking happened. so
Crazy.
so anyways, the same thing happened with Chloe. I thought, oh gosh, when's it gonna happen? She's gonna die. Like that's so sad. And like it never happened. And then I thought, oh, maybe I'm remembering something from the very last episode. Maybe that's what I'm remembering it from. And maybe they did it where you think she dies and because they didn't know they were going to end, maybe then that's where you're left at the end wondering like what happened to her. No, none of that happened. She happily went in a stasis pod.
That's so funny. At some point, I swore like I read somewhere that she died too. Like, so
How weird.
maybe we did jump realities. It's like a weird
Yeah.
quantum,
Yeah.
quantum shifted into the next reality.
Oh my goodness. But I do like feel like just in general when I was watching SGU, the hold on, let me go to the list of episodes. I think like the ones that were more like near the end but weren't the end,
Hmm.
like so things like Hope, Seizure, The Hunt, and then the second to last one's called The Blockade. Like those were all ones that like on my little app that I have here where I rate it, like those were some of my like ones that I really enjoyed. I feel like I enjoyed some of the ones more than the actual
Yeah, yeah,
final
yeah.
episode. Um, so I felt like just in general with me, like, you know, like with those, I actually felt like watching like, like I'd said way in the beginning when we first started watching Universe, I initially was at a point where I didn't feel like watching multiple episodes one after the other because it was such a a gloom and doom type of show. It was hard for me to feel like watching more than one. But then as it continued and like especially near like see this in season two and near the end of season two and everything middle to end, like it was so good that like I did actually watch multiple episodes one after the other. And so
Yeah.
I felt like maybe I think part of it too is like when you know a show is ending, I feel like it's really hard to remain like not biased to what you know is going to be the end because I feel like when you know something's going to be the end, regardless of how it ends, there's that part of the mind that is almost, I think, maybe at least for me, judging that show more harshly. Because I remember with SG1 too, I didn't really like the final episode that much.
Yeah, it was
Um,
okay, but
it, like, yeah. Um, and I think probably the same with Atlantis. I'll have to see how I feel going around to it this next time when I'm watching it with Taylor. But um, so I feel like there's part of it that you almost like don't get the full benefit of the episodes because you know it's ending. I think if we were watching it in real time and didn't know it was ending and we're expecting another series, I'm kind of wondering how I would have felt about some of these like last episodes of all the different Stargates.
Yeah. I mean, I think for the ones of SG-1 Atlantis, if they were like middle episodes, I probably would have been like an ending. If it was in the middle, that probably would have been fine. I think I kind of didn't like it as an ender. I think the
Yeah,
same, and I mean SG8 doesn't really, I don't really remember it as well. But
yeah,
I have to say, like for myself, I do tend to, like overall, I do tend to like middle episodes more than like like season ends or things like that.
yeah,
As much as I enjoy like, moving the plot forward and the cliffhangers, I would say like Universe for me, the parts I like the most were maybe between like the mid-season two-parter in Universe to the like right before the end of season one, and then the same thing in season two.
yeah.
That's kind of like, I mean, as much action as there can be in the finals and the like these things somehow I do like the other things sometimes more.
Yeah, that's very true. I think I do tend to like the middle bits more as well. Um, yeah, I can imagine it must be hard to like write the end,
Yeah.
the end
But
of,
I
you
know
know.
people that their favorite episodes are the ones where like the finales and the opening of the season because that's where all the action is.
Yeah.
It's just for me, I tend to like the other things like more that are kind of less consequential. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, it's definitely just a matter of taste of what you enjoy more because I think, like, with me and you both, I think we've mentioned how we love the filler episodes,
yeah,
and
exactly.
there's other people that absolutely hate them and get really, like, triggered by filler
Yes,
episodes and just, like, complain about it. So, um, I think it's just a matter of taste of what you like, right?
totally,
But
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, I think it'd be really interesting for those that have finished Stargate Universe. Like, I'm really curious, like, if they agree with us, like with our thoughts and on what we've said about like how everything has ended, or, is there anything we haven't brought up that like stood out to them, with the final episodes of Universe?
Yes, absolutely. Definitely tell us all of your opinions and thoughts. And did you like the ending? And did you like the show as a whole? Because that's also something I think we were discussing. And I have to say, like, one final thought is I think that in retrospect, a lot of people felt differently about Jonas Quinn with some time. And I think the feeling was maybe more the reaction to the lack of Daniel. And I wonder if part of the sort of negativity towards SGU, at least in the beginning, was less of a SGU is bad and more of like being sad that maybe there wasn't any more SG1 or Atlantis. Just a
Yeah,
thought.
good point.